Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Simon with AvaTrade. I'm very excited to be back with you, and I hope that you're excited as well to hear new things for the upcoming week. So, we had a crazy week with a lot of moves testifying of Powell, then NFP numbers beating the expectations, some action with banks, including big bank going bust. And we'll be talking about all these things today. Now, before I forget, this is very important. If you are trading US markets, you need to adjust your trading times because US is starting the day saving times earlier than the other parts of the world. So in US, the day saving time starting, it's usually the second Sunday of March. So it is started, and you need to adjust your trading again. The U.S. stocks, the indices, the trading by U.S. time, and you need to take that into consideration. And then when Europe changes in other parts of the world, wherever you are, and then kind of get equalized. But I know some countries don't change. So just keep in mind that US time went up 1 hour, just to keep in mind. Okay, so special welcome to the new people. And for those that are new, just to explain towards the idea of this webinar, it says pretty much in the title, your weekly trading plan. What we're trying to do is create a plan, create a structure, create an organized way of trading. It doesn't guarantee success, but it definitely makes things better, less chaotic, and more organized. And that's the purpose of this webinar. Now, a few things about myself. This is me, Simon Friedman. I'm one of the senior account managers at AvaTrade. I started to trade in June of 2000, and it's going to be 23 years this year. And I started as a proprietary trader. I did it for about 11 years, and then I moved on to trade in a different way. It was a crazy roller coaster, exciting for about 11 years, just day trading stocks on the professional level. And then I moved to mentor and educate other traders. And of course, I never left trading. I enjoy it. I'm very passionate about the markets. And I try to help our customers at AvaTrade as much as I can. Now, the agenda of the webinar is pretty much the same every week. We talk about indices, stocks, commodities, FX. And these are the channels I would really recommend that you follow, especially the YouTube channel that is being updated on a regular basis. Myself and my colleagues, we doing few webinars every week. It's being updated, uploaded to the YouTube channel. If you missed the live webinar, you can always go back and watch it. And you have educational tutorials and a lot of things at our YouTube channel. Now, of course, a risk warning, you can find the full document at avatrade.com, and everything we do here, it's purely educational. And of course, we do not suggest any trades. Now, before I comment on this picture, you can start reading if you'd like. A few things. As I said, the daylight saving time kicked in, and the things for the week that ended, we had 2 days of Powell testifying in front of the Congress. Pretty much the language is pretty harsh. I said still everything is data dependent, and they're still focusing on bringing the inflation back, and it's still high. So it was kind of aggressive. The same, nothing changed so far. Now, NFP numbers came higher than expected. Also, market reacted to it. We'll take a look in a moment. And for this week, we have CPI numbers coming, and we have 10 days to the interest rate decision. So it's going to be a great week. Now, as far as banks, let's read this thing together. Silicon Valley Bank, one of the big banks. The second largest bank failure in U.S. history might help the Federal Reserve to do its job of tightening credit and slowing the economy. To be sure, the sudden collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank unit of SVB Financial Group wasn't part of the Fed's plan, but it nonetheless seems an inevitable result of ending the era of free money that funded not only the technology sector but also an area of other investments that suddenly have been made less viable by the prospect of short-term rates approaching 5%. Stocks fell again in the week just ended, led lower by financial issues, most notably regional banks. At the same time, the sign of distress of the financial sector sent yields on treasuries, especially shorter mature, tumbling as expectation near-term Fed hikes fell sharply. Okay, so you probably heard about it. The bank shut down, and people that have less than 250,000 on their deposits, they have nothing to worry about. They should be able to access their money by the 13th, and it's all FDIC secured. And the big companies that held big amounts, they could be in trouble. I did a lot of research. It took me a few hours to prepare today's webinar, a lot of things. So one of the things they say that this bank was financing a lot of small-sized pharmaceutical companies, and they already reacted to the downside. So some analysts said that this is just the beginning, and also they compare it with the situation with Bear Stearns that happened about 15 years ago. And we all know 2008 collapse of the markets, right? So I just researched, it says right here that the Bear Stearns pretty much, the bank collapsed and they sold themselves to JP Morgan at $2 a share. And that was Sunday, March 16 of 2008. And Monday, the whole thing started to collapse, and of course, we know that the market had a global effect. Excuse me, that was a global issue, and until today, we feel the side effects or the things that happened in 2008. And funny enough, I don't know if it's funny, just the first word came to my mind, that some analysts and investors are really, they were talking about it, that in front of us, we might see a market collapse that it's larger than 2008. And some say that this is the beginning of the bank's issues and so on. So I guess in upcoming week, we're gonna hear more things and more plans and more details on anything that happened in the financial sector. So I just wanted to share this, and this is from marketwatch.com. You can find the article and read the whole thing. Let's go into the calendar. Of course, for the new people, as always, I explained the idea of following the economic calendar is important because a trader doesn't want to be caught by surprise in certain move, certain event or announcement or anything else that would move the market. And without knowing that happens, it's really hard to see what's happening. So again, some traders like to stay away from the announcement and wait till things settle. Others, they just actually enjoy the announcement. They like the super high volatility and they like to scalp in and out on those moves. So it's all individual. But the idea that certain things are happening, it's very, very important. Like next week, the key events, that's the CPI numbers here on Tuesday, and we have the Michigan consumer sentiment. So let's just go through it really quick. So on Tuesday, we have unemployment data from UK and the CPI numbers coming on Tuesday. We're going to be really waiting for that number. As Feds, just to remind us, three things that are being watched: that the state of the economy, the employment situation, and the inflation situation, which is the CPI in this case. So very important on Tuesday. We have monetary policy meeting minutes from Japan on that day. Wednesday, retail sales. from China, retail sales from US, also very important number. GDP numbers from New Zealand, Australia, employment data. We have a big day for Europe on Thursday. As you could see here, they kind of priced in half a percentage increase in interest rate. So we have the decision, and then we have the press conference 30 minutes later from European Central Bank. And Friday, the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, very important as well to show how things are on the consumer side. Okay, so let's move to the trading terminal, and then we'll try to make sense. So again, we had few issues with the Silvergate Bank issues earlier, and then now we have the Silicon Valley Bank that just collapsed, and they have about 200 billion in assets. It's quite a chunk of money. So financials, let's just take a look really quick what the big banks did, just to look at a few. Daily chart, Goldman. I'm just showing the big banks. The smaller ones, they really suffered. JP Morgan fell, but then Friday kind of bounced back. Citi sold, Bank of America collapsed below the previous support. So the financials really went down. So let's start from indices. And I'll show what happened with the announcement when we had the NFP numbers came up. So we start with S&Ps, and it's the week, it's red, it's closed below the previous 2 weeks, so we are on the way down. And let's just try to digest what happened at the announcement. And it was right here on the 10th at 1:30, right? Came the announcement. Of course, that's the reason I'm mentioning why it's important to know the announcement will come. Usually, NFPs or announcement of that high level of importance, you'll see huge spikes, and that's what happened actually. But a huge spike, and we ended up being higher. Then we sold. Then we came back trying to retest that high. We failed, and then we sold again. And then the last couple of hours, we tried to recover. We didn't really have any juice. And it's not just the NFPs, it's also the fear of financial sector issues also, I believe, added to it. So overall, we had a sell-off on S&Ps. We did close below the previous support, from which, let me just bring another chart. So we did close on S&Ps below the previous support. And take a look, if you remember this trend line that we connected the tops on the weekly chart, we just closed into that trend line. We crossed it to the downside. It's also showing a strong bearish indication. So that's as far as the S&Ps. Dow Jones, similar, we're below all the moving averages. And take a look on Dow Jones, we're approaching the level of November of last year. The low here was 31,737, and here 31,792, about 50-60 points short where we're from retesting that low. So as you can see, the mood is totally bearish. Nasdaq, we have kind of a triple bottom here, 1, 2, and 3. Then we bounced off the 100 moving average on the daily chart. European indices reacted as well. Take a look. It's a huge drop. We gapped down and we went lower on Nifty. We actually testing. Why did I say Nifty? I'm not sure. This is UK FTSE, UK 100. I apologize. So we did come to this support. The low here was 76.82, and we bounce up that level. So it looks like we're holding the previous support. Let's see how this new week starts. If we hold it, we might bounce to the upside. DAX as well, we are actually trading. If you remember, I mentioned we're really sitting in this channel, and now we're retesting the bottom of the channel on DAX, and also we're approaching the 50 moving average here. And of course, the ECB decision will definitely affect euro, and it will affect the equity markets as well. So this is on DAX. French index also a nice correction. We're approaching the 50 moving average over here. Here comes the Nifty that I just mentioned for the wrong index. It's been really trying to break below this around 17,500. Let's see what happens there. It's been falling the last 2 days and trying to retest the previous support over here. So indices were established. It's strong downside pressure. We had NFP numbers higher than expected, and Powell testimonials, and we're showing that the Feds are on the same course, even though these banks issues that we have on one hand, they really creating a panic with investors, and definitely the people that are holding money in the banks as well. But on the other hand, it might actually soften the actions of the Feds, because definitely they're feeling the pressure on themselves not to collapse the economy, not to collapse the financial system, because it looks like the big corporation that we just mentioned, the Silicon Valley Bank, was affected a lot by the high interest rates. So let's see what happens. Now, let's move to stocks. And before we do, I just want to mention a few things that we spoke about last week. We'll just go through them really quick. We spoke about Pfizer, that it's in talks of acquiring the CGN company. And let's take a look what Pfizer is doing. As you could see, the stock when it was going lower, which is normal, as I mentioned to you last week. The company that announced buying another company, usually the stock goes down, and the company that's being bought out, the stock's going up. So Pfizer is on the way down. Excuse me. And we might continue sliding at least to retest a possible support around 38.5. Let's see how this week plays out. It continues doing the same thing. Now, Tesla, we spoke about Tesla, how that investor conference didn't go that great, and the stock actually continued selling this week. And on the daily chart, we're approaching the 50 moving average. So Tesla, of course, with the market going down, it didn't help either. It was a red week for Tesla. And let's see how this week plays out. Now, we spoke about NVIDIA. I'm going to switch to MT5, because MT4 doesn't have all the stocks that we offer. So NVIDIA. Where is NVIDIA? Here we go. NVIDIA, we mentioned that is a high demand and a good future kind of predicted for the stock. And of course, the last 2 days with the market going down, NVIDIA came in a little bit, but still very strong. It's holding. Salesforce, on the other hand, didn't really manage to hold these gains. If you remember, the stock just gapped up on the good news, and since then we just kept on going lower, and we could be on the way to close the gap. If you remember, before the announcements, the stock closed at 167.81, and then we opened at the huge premium with a huge gap. And since then, those gains didn't really hold for a long time. So we are sliding. We'll be watching Salesforce of possibly closing the gap, and then we might see continuation to the upside or going lower. Of course, everything is possible. Now we had GE and Apple. Also, we had some conferences or presentations they had, and let's take a look at them really quick. GE, the stock looking very strong. It gapped up. That was on Thursday when the presentation happened, and of course, some analysts are very excited about the stock for some reason. And Oppenheimer actually upgraded the target price from 82 to 98, and the high on Thursday was 94.87, almost 95. And the target, again, that's Oppenheimer. The target 98 for GE. It looks like GE looks good for some investors. Apple, on the other hand, is really selling. We are below 150 again, and one of the investors at Lightshed Partners, I just researched that. I didn't really hear of this firm, but you can research Lightshed Partners analyst Walter Pasek, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. He downgraded the Apple stock from neutral to sell and announced $120 price target. I don't know if that's important announcement or not. Just to remind everyone, the biggest shareholder of Apple is Berkshire Hathaway, and they're very happy holding the stock. They've been making a lot of money and increase the value of the stock, and they're making a lot of money in dividends as well. So let's see what's next. So far, if you look at the chart, we've been always playing around $150. We closed at $148.50, right about the 200 moving average. So we'll be watching that Apple stock as well. Intel, something that caught my attention. If you remember, Intel's been weak, and sometimes I talk about the stock. Take a look on the falling market. Intel went up. So again, relative strength, very important to spot these things. Something's happening here, and of course, if you research, you might find out that a few things. One of the important things that Intel is reached a deal with German government. They're going to be building a plant in the city called Magdeburg. I think it's eastern part of Germany, and they getting subsidies from the German government, and they looks like they're demanding more to get. So the stock is reacting in a positive way. Again, on the falling market, not collapsing, but really heavily falling market, the stock went up the last 3 days. So it's a good sign. It might attract investors and traders. As you could see, we mentioned, I believe, this level around 24.5. We did reach that 2 weeks ago, and we bounced from there. So now we could be on the way to retest the top of this range, somewhere around $30, maybe $30, $31. So we currently in the channel. It looks again like support's being established nicely. And if we continue higher here, again, it depends what the whole market is doing. If the market collapses, like some people predict, we might see a move on the Intel to the downside as well. But as of now, this news on the building this plant in Germany, the stock's going higher, so we might see a move to retest the recent resistance as we really sustained the support here. So we'll be watching Intel in the upcoming week. Now, a few things technically. Microsoft, something that I'm not going to go through all the big guys that went down with the market. So a few things that looks interestingly. Microsoft, if you take a look at the chart, just want to see, we want to see if Microsoft holds this recent support here, and the low here was 245.61. And if we do break through it, we might continue to the downside. Now, Netflix, famous Netflix, and we'll be watching Netflix as it moves lower, and we might continue. As you could see, we just went one level up to the other. We had the 50 moving average broken, 100 moving average broken. We're on the way down, and we might be facing the test of certain levels around 177, 176. And it looks like we're falling. There was not really a pullback from this fall that started from around 362. So as of now, the buyers are not coming in. And if the market continues selling off, we might come and have another attempt to break through this 277 to maybe from 275 to 277 level. Let's see the low here. Low was 273. So let's take 275 as an average, and we might be retesting that level on Netflix. Okay, let's move to commodities. On Friday, as the yields dropped on short-term bonds, as you know, we've been watching the 10-year bonds. The yield fell. The gold moved nicely to the upside in the past 2 days, especially on Friday. We just broke through the 100 moving average, and we are on the way up. Nice move. The next stop is a 50 moving average, but as far as technicals, we actually right at the series level here. As you could see, support was here from which we made a high, and then we had switched to it being a resistance around this level in mid-February, about a month ago, and then we sold through these levels. So we are testing this level around 80, exactly where we are now, around 1866, 1870. And if we do break through it, we might, like I said, retest the 50 moving average and might even break it to the upside. And if we fail to break through it, we might slide right back. And just to show you the opposite, as dollar index done the opposite in the past 2 days. We just went down and we retested the support. We really held this red line of support around 104.25. So let's continue with commodities. So gold had a nice move, but we failed to break through this resistance. Silver, also nice move, not as strong as gold. Platinum, also to the upside. And palladium has been sitting here, didn't really have any juice to move higher. And just to remind you, we're sitting right at the very serious strategic level where we were exactly 3 years ago, March 15. This is the weekly chart, the week of March 15th, I'm sorry. We hit the low of 1354.90. And we tried to break that level on this week of February 19. We failed. And then this past week, we tried again, and we did close above. So again, that level is being marked here on the daily chart. We're really fighting with this level. So as you could see, the buyers are holding this level, and the sellers are also pushing to the downside. So one of the camps will win, and we'll try to find out which is the winner's camp, the bulls or the bears in this instrument. Definitely worth watching. So that's as far as palladium. Let's take a look at energy. Energy has been weak. If you take a look at oil, since we hit 80, which sold out. As you could see, the same thing happened here. The same thing happened again. And Friday we bounced a little bit. Natural gas is back into the channel. If you remember, we spoke about this channel about between 230 and 260. We've been fighting a lot. We went below. We had a nice move to the upside, even above the 50 moving average. We ended up touching $3, and then we kept on sliding. We went back into the channel. We closed at around 243. So we might see retesting of the bottom of this channel. And of course, if we do hold, we might be back in the channel for another accumulation string. And if we do break through it, we might go and retest and challenge this recent low. And of course, if we do break to the upside and start building another support like we did here, we might go and challenge the $3 mark again. So natural gas, very, very important. Everybody, of course, the energy traders, they've been watching it and trying to make sense of it and see what's next. Now, that's as far as the energy has been weak. Let's take a look really at soft commodities. Wheat sold out. We hit the 200 moving average on the weekly chart, and we bounced from there. Friday was the first bounce. The sell-off was pretty strong. We were coming from 797 area all the way to 660. That's about 130 something points, a huge sell-off. At Friday we bounced. Let's see if that moves or correction continues. Corn, same idea. Friday is the first bounce after this sell-off, and soybeans is the strongest one. It's been holding here, didn't really sell off like the other two. Now let's take a look at cocoa. Cocoa, we spoke about after making this recent move or strong move to the upside. We are in the selling mode, and take a look where we stopped. This was the resistance from which we sold a little bit before making a high, and then we stopped right there. So this level, the current level around, what was the high here? 26.95. That's exactly around where we are. Now let's see if we're holding this, if we're breaking through it and start building price action below this 26.95 level, we might see continuation to the downside. And if we start trading above that line, we might see continuation to the upside. That's as far as cocoa. And we'll finish with commodities here. Let's take a look at Forex, and we'll start with dollar index, of course. And as I mentioned, for the past 2 days, dollar has been weak. We erased this huge gain that we had on the 7th of March, and we retested or challenged these lows. We failed to go lower, and we kind of in between 104 and a quarter and 105, right in the middle. So let's see what this week will bring. And of course, the Tuesday CPI numbers will affect dollar one way or another. We'll be watching that. Now, the majors, as you could see, Australian dollar for some reason is very weak. On the weak dollar, the Australian dollar didn't really move to the upside. The same thing on New Zealand dollar. It did move a little bit on Friday, but Australian dollar is the weakest for some reason, and yen was the strongest. So just take that into consideration, that any pairs with Australian dollar really sold on the Australian part. So Australian dollar is super weak, and yen has been strong. So let's take a look at yen. As you could see on the weak dollar, added to the sell-off in this pair, we recovered a little bit. Euro has been strong, but also give back a little bit. We retested this recent highs. We failed to go higher. And of course, this week's interest rate decision will affect the euro, as I mentioned earlier. Pound, similar idea. We did have a nice move, but we closed within the previous resistance. USD CAD, even on the weak dollar or US dollar, the pair didn't go lower because of the weakness of oil. And again, I repeat it for new people all the time, that Canadian dollar is usually affected by the price of oil, as Canada is one of the biggest producers and sellers of the commodity. So as you could see, the weakness of oil affected also Canadian dollar. So the pair didn't do much on Friday, and it went up on Thursday when the US dollar went lower. And Swiss franc's been strong. probably also one of the strongest, as Australian dollar is the weakest on the other side. Take a look. We did a sell-off significantly on USD Swiss. There's something to watch. Now, something on individual pairs, something that caught my attention. I just wanted to bring kind of a bonus. So Euro Aussie, as you could see, it went up as the weakness of Aussie that I mentioned a moment ago. So why am I bringing this pair? Take a look. We are approaching the weekly chart. We're approaching a serious level of resistance here, from which we sold, and that was very significant level. It was a lot of action here. We had a resistance that was sold out again, and then from here we made a lower low. So the high here was 162 and a quarter, 162.245. So will be 245. Let's put 245. Okay. So we might have a hard time breaking through this level, as last time we really sold. So I like these moments, and traders looking for certain strong levels from which, and it's not the first time when the instrument bounced to the opposite direction. So we are about 60, 70 pips away from there. So we'll be watching that. So that's Aussie Australian dollar weekly chart, possible resistance. And next one is Euro Swiss krona. Also, if you take a look at the weekly chart, even on daily chart, there was a lot of congestion here, a lot of actions, and we are entering into that level. So there's a possibility of breaking through it and moving to strongly to the upside. And it looks like nothing might be holding it. Or if we continue fighting and failing to break to the upside, we might see move to the downside. So that's Euro SEK Swedish krona. Now, and another one, and the last one that we'll be talking about is Pound Aussie. Also similar to Euro Aussie, we are fighting the resistance here. We actually exactly on the level of resistance from which we made a lower low, and there was the high here of 182.747. So 182.75, where we are exactly. We might have a big fight there, and if we do break through it, we might fly to the upside and really retest the next level of resistance. And if we fail to break to the upside, we might see a nice sliding, searching for next support to the downside. Okay, and that's it with Forex. Let's just take a look at Bitcoin. As we know, Bitcoin sold out, and one of the reasons was, of course, that silver bank issue and a lot of issues with crypto related. And we are trading around 20,000. And I don't know what else I can say about it. But we did fail to break through 25,000, if you remember, and then we were back into around 22,000, trying to settle there, and then on this news on the banks and everything else, and of course, as you know, it's been super sensitive to equity sell-offs and the strength of a dollar. So all those things just were too heavy, and the crypto market just gave in and moved lower. So that's it pretty much. I want to thank you all for coming to the webinar, and I hope that this was useful. And I would like to wish you a successful week. Please be prepared for all the events. Again, the time change in the US. We have CPI numbers, very, very important. The bank issues, they're just starting to pile up, serious issues. And we have 10 days to the interest rate decision. Enjoy the weekend. Have an amazing, successful, and proactive week. And we'll be back next Sunday. All the best.